so at the beginning of class, because it falls on a Sunday, which is kind of nice actually. So at the beginning of class, Geshe is going to transmit a verse, not a verse, sorry, a prayer of prostration and supplication written to Lama Tsongkhapa by his disciple Kedrup Gelik Palsang, known as Kedrupje usually. So that will be sort of special to start out next Sunday. And then we'll continue with our normal class. The following weekend, which is the weekend before the Christmas holiday, we will have on the 21st the continuation of the Chakrasamvara commentary. And on the 22nd, it will be the last session of this iteration, of this round of stages of meditation. And so then that brings us into the end of December. On the 27th, 28th, and 29th, we'll have a special medicine Buddha retreat. And so Geshe will lead one session each day, I think 2 morning sessions and 1 afternoon sessions. The afternoon session is early, so folks in Europe, you won't miss out. It starts at like, I think 7 p.m. your time and runs to 8:30 or something like that. And then in addition to that, I believe it's Paula Chichester, who is somebody who guides Vajrayogini practice for us, very, very experienced long-term retreat person. Dave, I think you're the second person, and Annie Bien, who we were just talking about, she's the third person. In addition to that, sign up for our newsletter and you'll be able to track when various group practices are happening. So Dave runs a book group. I do medicine Buddha practice sometimes. Deki Lee does Yamantaka practice. Deki Lee and I alternate on that if you have initiation, plus Paula Chichester's Vajrayogini guided practice. So if you want to keep track of all those things, sign up for our newsletter. So I see we're actually a minute past, so I will stop nattering now. Is Donna back, Dave? Because maybe okay, so I just want to introduce briefly. So it's been nice last couple of weeks. I think you've met different people who volunteer for our center. So Donna is the secretary on our board, and she wanted to share a message with you for 2 or 3 minutes before we get started. So I'll invite Geshe down, and Donna, please feel free to go ahead.
Thank you, Clever. Dave, is my audio clearer?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Is it? Okay, I'm sitting near the speaker. Is it clear now?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Okay, cool. So it's great to see you here this morning, all of you. As Kendra said, I wanted to take 3 minutes to introduce myself and share a little bit of my personal reasons for doing this work, why I donate and volunteer. I'm what people here in the West call a heritage Buddhist. So my family's Buddhist heritage in written records has been traced back to the 1400s in Sri Lanka. Growing up Buddhist, supporting one's temple and the Sangha, the monks, whether through volunteering or donating whatever little one can afford, is a duty that's passed down through generations and instilled in all Buddhists like me from childhood. Just as Christian churches give tithe and volunteer, and Muslims give sadaq, so childhood, Buddhist encouraged to give daন. My namesake is one of the fundamental Buddhist virtues, and it's ingrained in us both as a practice and a responsibility, a way of cultivating compassion, reducing attachment, and so that they can keep the Dhamma alive and make it accessible for all those who seek refuge. During colonial occupation, Sri Lankan Buddhists, including my own family and ancestors, were forced to abandon their faith by pain of death. They had to attend Christian missionary schools and convert to Christianity, while Buddhist monks were persecuted and temples were defunded and destroyed. Buddhism and the Dhamma survive today because of the courage of ordinary Buddhists, like my ancestors, who continued to donate, to volunteer, to support the Sangha, at great personal risk to their own lives and that of their families. I'm grateful that today we have the privilege of supporting the temple and the Sangha freely, a privilege that my ancestors could not take for granted. My personal reasons for supporting Lama Yeshe are tied to this history and this heritage. My support for the temple and Buddhism is also shaped by how, in the West, Buddhist teachings and practices like mindfulness are often appropriated and stripped from their Buddhist roots. This echoes my own history when in colonial times, being Buddhist was seen as shameful and backward, something to be erased. Today, I choose to support Buddhist temples and their Buddhist practices and teachings openly and with pride, honoring the heritage and the people who sustain those practices and teachings through the centuries, ensuring that the Dhamma is celebrated as a living faith. As a child, I was always in awe of the stories of my great-grandmother, Helena Vijayawardena. Like her parents, she was sent to missionary schools and raised as a Christian. Yet one full moon day in 1880, she visited the Kalaniya temple. This is a sacred and very expansive temple near Colombo in Sri Lanka. The temple is a site of pilgrimage and revered as the site where the Buddha himself visited during one of his 3 visits to Sri Lanka from India. Helena was struck by the neglect and poverty of that temple. That moment changed her life. Helena made it her mission to restore the temple and its Sangha, pouring her energy and resources into ensuring that the Dhamma could continue and be passed on to future generations like mine and that of my daughters sitting here. She brought in artisans and architects from India and mural artists from different regions in Sri Lanka to rebuild and restore the temple. Helena even secured the Kalaniya Sangha's future by donating paddy fields and coconut lands to provide a sustainable income for generations to come for the temple. Unlike me, Helena was a lady of means. But her work was dangerous in a time when colonial rulers sought to eradicate Buddhism. Her courage reminds us that Buddhism survived not only through the Sangha and monks, but also through their lay supporters who refused to let it be erased. That same pride in our faith and same duty to protect the Sangha have been passed down to me. I support Lama Yeshe because I recognize the rare and precious gift that it offers. A Sangha that is deeply learned and wise, kind and approachable, and steadfast in living by Buddhist ethics, all within a compassionate and welcoming community. This is a sanctuary of safety and kindness that I want to sustain so that future generations can benefit from it. I love being part of your community, and thank you for taking the time to listen to me today.
Lovely. Thank you.
Thanks, Donna. Thanks, everybody. So I just want to do a quick sound check. How's the sound here? Is it all right?
Yeah.
And Gantesuna.
Yeah.
Rushing Geshe. He's catching his breath. It was a fast trip down the stairs today.
Yeah, Tashi Dele.
So Tashi Dele, everybody. Can you hear Geshe-la's greeting? Okay, wonderful. So we are good to go.
This one.
This.
Ota Tashi Dele to Rosso Sogata, Shawa Yapo Kangata, Yoni, you are watching Boyos.
So first of all, Geshe-la wants to greet you all with his Tashi Dele, and he hopes that all of your activities are going well.
Ota Naruso, Anya, Ota Jasi Chimbo Shawala Gata, Laja, Kachimbochi Tela, Ane, Dene Deondo, Sishi Jilu Injurs. Ota Shambado Niji Zawaji Vishonju set telepaths, set days and Rotovaina, set and Rotovaina, that Deshi Jujumado, Royameva is at that Del Sakalika.
So the great Acharya Shantideva mentions that with the minds of love, compassion, and bodhicitta risen within one's mind, who does not go from happy space to happy space? Sorry, just give me a moment. Sorry, I just need to get some ventilation happening. Losagi.
미미슈니 집에 치들라이메.
Yeah, labai,
데
labai.
어다 너 다테 야라자 쳔보레스 간소죠 야보소노 토나.
So that's a very important piece of advice, actually, if we contemplate it carefully.
어다
Nganso jangchugi sem jampadang ninja yona dene kiwa le kiwa drogiyores di hakone dene suma tangyore. I hear someone typing.
스지루 바체거 멜로 체거 마라와스.
Listen. Right. So understanding the benefits of this, then who would remain lazy? That's the last part of Shantideva's verse.
어다 첸들리나요. 알레 첸들리나요. 녜네세 자체른도 레바 자체른도 강가 고셰냐라. 그용보세 그용바. 어다 기보용 그레스.
And the point is that when we practice the Dharma, even when within this life, what we will be able to tap into is that vast and encompassing mind. As we tap into that, what we'll find is that we become more and more broad-minded, more and more open-minded and happier.
어다 가로서 단지 마리바오시 먹기바래 아니 잘로로 요아래 쪼쪼데 슈 체슈데 너무 진지되게 가로서 레바용 고시아고 세용 고시아고 아니라 간조 할레베 보게 오케사 보시죠.
And so the problem, though, is this ignorance grasping at the self and the self-cherishing or self-centered attitude, which are operating in the background. These prevent us from tapping into that, right? These keep us narrowly focused and narrow-minded.
다 간조 로로서 자 첨부 저기 요아래 때때 저기 바래요 그래. 이제 요아래. 이나 간조 자 첨부 저도 된 논로 요아래.
So, of course, seeing oneself as precious or important, this is not necessarily mistaken, right? In some ways, it is a worthy mind, but the way that we see ourselves as precious or important may be incorrect.
다 던지지 다 가제 터터 다른 세 쇼바고 쇼런도야 니지기 쇼런도야 다 쇼주지 세 쇼런도 토소나 다 대대시 니는 거 줘야지 다 거가 요아래.
The secret is that if, as much as possible, we engage with these minds of love, compassion, and bodhicitta, then that happiness that we are seeking for ourselves, for our mind, this will come closer and closer. Amongst all of the migrating sentient beings, we are human beings, and it is we human beings who actually have the greatest opportunity here.
And
if you know how to look at your personal situation, you'll see that even amongst the various human beings, right, we are sort of the most fortunate. We have the most access to opportunity. So this recognition is important because if we recognize the sort of a privilege, the opportunity that we have with this human life, to be able to work towards a real and lasting happiness for ourselves and others, then whatever we study, whatever we feel like, whatever we study, whatever we practice in the Dharma, we will not become weary. We'll see also that what happens within samsara is, although we may get something, although we may achieve something, this comes with problems, and the problems increase and increase. Yeah. Yeah. So there is. Yeah. Then. So we need to recognize the nature of samsara. So for example, if somebody were to put their finger or something in a flame or in fire, we would say the fact that they got burnt was not something that was at all surprising, right? Because we know that the nature of fire is intense heat. Similarly, if somebody did that with some water and they became moist or damp, we would say that this is not at all surprising because it is the nature of water to moisten.
다 거의 로지 드리지 다 내서 코 드리지마도 매야이서 다 나로서 니네 설타 로로서서 또는 기보 다 니까 기원인을 해야 돼요.
Yine korwa ginetso dendre res, yine dendre kandes
저는 거의
presta
로지
kogre.
보다 줘야면 봐도 고아코로 로지 지레스.
Loso, loso, loso.
다 요다 용근돼서 할래비 가디나 저게 제가 사야 버레스.
So if we carry over that kind of reasoning to samsara, to cyclic existence, and we know, I get little pieces sometimes. I can't fill in the blanks, right? Because I might do it wrongly, and then that's not good. So I have to ask for, make sure I get the whole thing. So samsara, right? The nature of cyclic existence is that it brings constant problems and dissatisfaction. If we know that this is the nature of samsara, this will help us not to become overwhelmed, right? When we face those problems, because we understand that's part of the experience.
거의 로지 드리지레 다 가디나 강에를 위해서는 대 말레스 세세하대 건다 레비더니 다 니빠 첨부 또 첨부 차나 강에 그 가리나 고 조토야 걸 니바요.
So does that mean, following that logic, okay, we accept that this is the nature of cyclic existence of samsara. So does that mean that as long as we're here, we need to be completely miserable? There's no hope? No, right? That's not what is being said here. Based upon that recognition, if we learn to work with our mind, if we learn to train our mind in a different way, it can become the situation that even those difficulties, right, they will be able to be transformed into causes for happiness.
다 나로서 다 샤차사 샤요가 조 도자 템바레 도자 템바 니네 대신 거 줘야 돼. 나좀 문우진데 리지 티네 드럼도 와스. 예속의 때는 대신 니네 거 주도 봐 주마레스.
So one of our objects of prostration is, of course, the founder of the Buddha Dharma, Buddha Shakyamuni. And when we prostrate to him partly because of what he achieved. And remember that he achieved this mind of cherishing others that led to that stable happiness while still in the hell realm. The story is that he first achieved this in the hhell realm.
다 대어된 것주 토야는 게 당길라야 돼. 전주지 세세 짜치 못 시부터 뭐 지금 연속이 되了. 시와레자 좀 바레스.
So it's explained in the scriptures that actually it wasn't just Buddha Shakyamuni, right, as a bodhisattva before his enlightenment who achieved like this, but many beings, due to their previous training and imprints, for another reason, they fell into the lower realms. But while there, this activated their bodhicitta and they became bodhisattvas.
다 몸보찌가 다 됐도 더 마셔도 뭐야.
Yeah. And so whether this arises or not, and where that mind of bodhicitta first arises based upon the imprints, it depends upon the particular conditions, right?
다 관계 터모한테 다 내가 집어야 바데 다 내속에 들은 이제 전부 준바데 다 관계 그렇게 얘기하네스.
And so different philosophical schools have different ideas about how this actually happened. So whether it was bodhicitta or whether it was great compassion, all the various Buddhist philosophical schools hold that the being who became Buddha Shakyamuni first gave rise to this in the lower realms.
다 되네 이제 전부사지 준바에서 이제 전부사한테 노지네 다 관계 다 또 첨보를 짜 첨보지에서 제바 노지 다 코다 레비 또 첨보지 장에서 그 강가 파도 아니라 아니 다 도착 거제라고 싫다 체피니려 되네 된도네 대신레스.
So what happened with this being who became Buddha Shakyamuni? So in the accounts that say it was not bodhicitta, but great compassion that he arose. Because of the great compassion arising, seeing his companions in the hell realm suffering, the power of that mind of great compassion was activated. This mind was so powerful that it was able to clear away the negative karma, which was the cause of him being in that lower realm. And just from arising that mind, he came up from the depths of hell and then went from happy rebirth to happy rebirth until enlightenment. And so the moment that mind of great compassion arose, it was powerful enough to break through the karmic chains of hell. That's how powerful it was.
어다 드니 코알 데비가라 대시는 대시 조조레 마토다 강에 두가지 다른 표시라요.
And then from that moment, right, the bodhisattva who became the Buddha, he was still within samsara, but he went from happy rebirth to happy rebirth.
어다 간조 당이 대시게 하대 간조 델리조 하가 이내서는 덴디기 델리요 알아왔어.
Yes. And so in terms of arising these kinds of minds, right, we have even more facility than he did because we have a relatively favorable rebirth.
어다 가르이나 니지 첨버더이나 존지세더이나 또니또비 시라더이나 간조 고가 차수 다 소소 셰도 마셔서 하더래 마도 차수 다 토바도 요아레스.
Great compassion, bodhicitta, the wisdom realizing emptiness. The only question of achieving those is whether we put in the endeavor, the effort or not. There is no question that we are able to achieve all of those in our current situation.
어다 제세 가제셔나 마셔나 된다 소소 셰 메바데 제세레 마도 yen다 가 제세셔 치주문데스.
So, also, if we're falling short of achieving those things, don't get blamey about it and look to the outside person to blame, right? Because falling short in these things is based upon our own lack of engagement and endeavor.
어다 던지지 사타 가와 송보도 고가 첨보도 당 이내서노 또나 기공이네레 디와레스 니카치라.
So when we understand this, we understand that we are fortunate. We understand that we have a precious opportunity. And if during the hard times we remember this, we will find reason to be happy.
다 단다요 멀리티게 저거도 니파티시나 마다 세레오게 강게체시로.
Again.
단다 멀리티게 시에테 모모데 자서스.
Yeah.
소소게 시에 모모데 자요 그러더니.
So Geshe said that, he realizes, right, that there is a dichotomy here. Because on the one hand, right now, he's praising the value of a human rebirth. But on the other hand, he's speaking about the disadvantages even of that rebirth and of how difficult samsara is. So this is one of sort of the paradoxes we grapple with, right? So maybe that's sometimes difficult.
다 던지지렌데 소리스마 다 던지지렌데 다 던지지 세요 보태지 당하로서 세코로 아주 전에 스테이지사 가르세카 고선한데 시타비칼 류마테게 세 가제터도 세셔와데야 가제터도 스테이지 되지기 와레스냐라.
And so, understanding how this mind works and what we are carrying, this is why Geshe advises before the meditation session as a way of kind of focusing the mind, that we try to get it into a neutral state or into a state of equanimity.
다자 대오 자자 체가마도 소소 놀이인데 디세 문보요하러 왔어. 아니 오다 데리인데 가도 제용이라 마셔 반다고 헬레자 데데바이나.
연결 순간 칼레.
제용이라 마셔 봐.
Right. Yilame chepa. Right.
오다 델 디세 리버 데트라소나. 하고서라 오다 고 노닐다 야 시부 토마소 토미 고 마시기 바레스.
Yeah. So, and that's valuable. But of course, if we spend too long in this meditation on nothingness, which is essentially a mind of non-engagement, if we stress too much, emptying all thoughts and not thinking of anything in the mind for too long, the danger is that this can throw us off track. In fact, some holy beings say it can become a meditation on ignorance.
다 센체페나 센체 르베도 치시도 대질 빼자긴도 왔어. 다 드리자
Chusin.
치시.
Ale, Shenang Saboti, so mamboya. Yeah.
다 대지티데 아니 드니 잔다 르베.
Rubel.
Yeah,
Rubel code loja nang lojan. Yeah.
다 대지 야 들어올셔 이나요. 어떤 논문을 들리시는 거야. 그래서 또 고쳐 손.
Right. And so so kewa di gyuchagire tanda.
Yeah.
And so if one is meditating only on nothingness, right? If one is only practicing this mental non-engagement, the karmic result of that could be becoming like one of those animals that sits very still for a long time, right? As part of its survival strategy, like a rabbit, or to hunt, like an alligator, or just normally, like a turtle or a tortoise.
Rabbit lamasda,
Ribong lamasne. So rubel dang
rvedo chisinda tani jokpi ta
ale.
ta rvedo so opere tenda.
Oh, sorry. So he didn't mention a rabbit. I'm
No,
sorry.
that's-
He knows that word because I that's probably why I said it, because it's pretty much his favorite animal. Geshe loves to sit on the curb and have the rabbits join him when he recites. So, anyways, it wasn't a rabbit. Oh, I know why I said rubel and ribong, because the word for tortoise or turtle and rabbit are very similar. So anyway, it was just the turtle and the alligator. My apologies.
Ota ganzo ota tingez gomba yina medon rabo tani do ni je do ta saja ni je do tendel taga se goni de ba yina. Tendo atomi gomba lan roge res ta taga se mara chibo to matsa chimbo tani kisungu yar.
And similarly, the holy beings advise that if for our object of focus in single-pointed meditation cultivation is a neutral object like a beautiful flower or a beautiful place or a beautiful gem or stone, right? This can also become the cause of dull-mindedness or different kinds of those rebirths.
Ota hal shewa yina che ko so no to ya me ke mo ya she so se a che ta mama ta nga chenjo gundu se a che ma so no me tla ji yar.
Nga chi
Mo ya she so.
ya she song. Yeah.
Ta mama ro vi ka ta nga shenjo gundu.
Di matot samutay me
Yeah,
dewa
yeah,
chempala ten
yeah.
wa. Yeah, hagusong.
To me go so na.
Yeah, dundro chikyang nyo reshi yomara yang la.
Yeah.
So Geshe is saying that also, so he's not just saying that those animal rebirths are an unwanted result of this. Like, we're not just looking at the animals, right? Also very high rebirths, right? Such as various gods in the Deva realm, those formless realm gods. They also run into trouble from cultivating that kind of single pointedness or just emptying the mind, right? And there's a certain kind of long-lived god in the formless realm that is born in that realm, is in meditative concentration to the point that their head is empty and they can't think of a single thing until the time in that rebirth ends and they see that they're going to fall into the lower realm. So it ends in a terrible experience of suffering.
Ta zo chi de zume je yin ni ta samba.
So there are said to be 4 formless realms, right? These are Deva, or sometimes people translate it as God realms. And within those there are 4 formless realms. And this particular experience is of the Devas of the 3rd of those 4.
Ta hal shewa yina ta mal shewa yina ta che ko so no to ya me ba. Ta tani nyo to tani.
Yeah. And so that could be the result of this mistaken practice, being reborn in a higher realm, or also being reborn as a human being. We could be prone to sort of zoning out, right? Not wanting to think of anything.
Ta nga zo mo ha ko sa so so ji yo be ka la ma chi chi ni te tombo de la ni pa de temba je ni pa de la tombo de temba je ro ta tani yo bas.
Yeah. So all of you also know the story of Chuda Pantaka, right? The monk at the time of the Buddha, who, when he learned a 2-word line of a verse, when he learned the first word, he'd forget the second, and when he learned the second, he'd forget the first. That could also be the result of this mistaken kind of meditation.
Ta teji kanga pere so ta tani so no to ne sengo che ba se na ya po du ma ta ma ne so mo bo yo ar was se mo shi ba. Yina za ma chen che yin la ma she bang go so no ma to ar go nyanga che wo yo res.
So Geshe, first of all, he wants to give a very clear, he wants to express his appreciation and respect for many of these teachings that talk about pointing out the nature of the mind or resting in the mind's nature. However, right, the danger can be if we can't distinguish between a genuine experience of that and just the bliss that comes from emptying the mind of thinking at all. Very important to distinguish.
Ya ta mo ta se ke che ta nga zo ka ta ka ze ta ta tombo se she wa lu ma te ke se ko ro ro je ka ze ta ta le le ji so no to lu ma te ke se chi so no to yo res.
So all that being said, we're going to take a moment to just place our body and mind in a peaceful state. So we are not going to hold any particular thought in our mind to begin, just as a way of focusing that, now I've lost track, of focusing that piece, just adjusting the sound so you can hear the gong.
Ta kale ten je wa to ne la nga zo cha lo so no ji jo ze so no ji. Shi ya bo chi ten de shi na wo ji yo na.
Right.
Te kale je wa do ne pho wa yin re jo ze yin ka yin na chi zo ndo ge was.
And so how this works, right, is we kind of settle the mind. Can you guys hear me or not? I see Dave flagging. You can't. You don't hear me?
It's very different with musician sound on. We
Is
should do our
it? So
sound
that's
check.
not a good different, I guess. So I guess I
Yeah.
have to go back to musician sound. That means you're not going to hear the gong, unfortunately.
That's better. That's okay.
Okay, yeah. It got softer. Okay.
We
I
should do our
wonder
sound
if
check with
there's.
musician sound on.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so if I put high fidelity, would that help maybe?
No, forget it for now. Just keep it standard.
Keep it
No
standard. And what
musician
about the
sound.
prayers? That'll sound funny, no?
But we'll hear you.
Okay, all right. Well, just a moment. I'm going to switch back. Hold on. Is that different now?
Better.
Is that better? Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
So where were we now? I forget. Totally forget. Kailasan. Ale, yeah. Yini sunda. Yes. Yeah, Oh, Choksedi. Yeah, sorry. So now I remember. So doing this kind of preliminary, right, before our meditation practice, we can think of this as clearing the workspace, right? And then as we engage with analysis and focus with the object, this becomes like building the table or the chair that we're putting together in the workshop. Again. So the idea here is that on the basis, right, of this neutral mind or this mind of equanimity that we sort of have placed, we then have to engage the mind with a virtuous object. I see messages still coming up. Can you guys hear me now? Okay, good. Yep. So also we need to understand how different minds are cultivated. So for method practices like love, compassion, and bodhicitta, what we try to do is bring those forth until they become imbued in the mind's nature. Yeah. However, with meditative objects more on the wisdom side, so for example, selflessness and impermanence, which all have sort of, more subtle and coarser aspects, it is not bringing those forth to imbue the mind with the object. Rather, it is analyzing and then holding that understanding in the mind single-pointedly. So it's cultivated a bit differently. So what you want to do is see the object that you're trying to cultivate like emptiness or impermanence, like those flowers or an object held right in front of you. And then you want to hold that object with the mind of wisdom, right? Rather than imbuing the mind with a quality like love. So anyways, maybe too much of an introduction. Anyways, let us begin the meditation. Gomjaya.
Yeah.
So think as much as possible, I will place this body and mind in a state of peace. So with a kind of completely unencumbered, curious, wondrous mind, develop that attitude like a child walking into an ornate temple and just appreciating the body, the mind, and the self. What does that look like?
소소 적도 제 가르라티니다. 용도 샤워렌다.
What sort of causes and conditions give rise to the self, give rise to body, speech, and mind?
나도 나이 셈세하데 어따 코르무지 야포치도 당기네 버게 가르세가 리고 야포치라 단 로토키 다되니까 나서레데 요레스.
The self and that it calls my mind in particular has a positive nature that can be tapped into and used to bring forth wholesome things.
이나요 나이 리세데하데 전에 온코 니빠게 차는 니빠 몸보 요할 때는 이나요 다되니까 코알코 자 거의 핀보지레데 요레스.
But this, along with that we call my body, which also has positive potentials within it, they are also part of those skandhas or aggregates which keep us rooted in this situation of constant circling within samsara or cyclic existence.
거의 뉴르칸가 모데아테요. 거의 리지야 이사트네 텔라테요.
So many of the faults of samsara, the uncertainty and difficulty of samsara, is related to this samsaric body, this form we possess.
거의 린드리지야 이자. 디오사 덴돌로 요아르테네 이나요. 사종그 강연라 때네다. 오 대파과야게 제다. 내서 뭐지?
We can think about how this samsaric body, even the one we possess now as a human being, in a favorable state of existence, how fragile it is in dealing with heat and with cold, and how many things we need to do to protect ourselves from that.
요 거의 린드리지야 이자. 요사 덴돌로 요아르테네 이나요. 예다 강에 누지 띠고 강에 뭐지? 그게 가야게 된다고. 내가 모르겠어.
So, if that's the case for us within a relatively happy realm of samsara, think about the suffering of heat and cold as experienced by the pretas, the hungry ghosts, or by most of the animals.
요 던로 누지 던로도 레디가 말했더니 레시 뜨면 봐. 또 다른 게 내서 뭐 지금 시비다. 강에 몸보지라 되네 단. 강에 가르서 거의 강에 조야매 봐지 알았어.
And think of how frightening that would be for those beings in the animal realm, whose faculties are more limited. They're stuck in a state of unknowingness, not understanding the suffering.
사도 매일다 요. Nyoda Shewa Kawa Nawa Chawala Subayung. Nyoda Mobo Zuya Many Yung de Lind Rich Koiliki is a Telatini should do so much.
The human beings and even some of the types of devas, the bodies that they inhabit, being within this state of samsara, think of all of the sufferings of the body related to illness, old age, and so forth, that they must continuously experience.
Koi, Ta Nyoda Yungzu Yungsati, Ta Zo Ta Linde, Koi Lichin, you are is a Telatini should do somebody. Koi Shea Pomisia.
So develop this recognition of this aspect of the disadvantages of samsara by understanding how so much of the difficulties and sufferings of samsara we experience relate to this samsaric body that we possess.
Tendika Shi Yungzu Tone, Tawachi, Tende Yare. Oh, that Tasun, Tashi, now a Chawala Sub, Muzula Chawaji on it, Tatia, Halevitza Chimbo. Oh, that Karsek, Tojanunita, only Yashta Yashutawachi, and do so much.
So we understand all of these faults and difficulties, but we also understand that there is a way out. Moksha, liberation. If we are able to achieve this, then the sufferings of old age, illness, death, and constant rebirth can be completely cleared away.
Yungzu, oh, that Shihakawa now, Koi Shi, that Matana Tam and the Tawashavi, Sombitone, Takazi to the Karsek.
So in order to free myself from these sufferings of illness, old age, death, and rebirth, I definitely must work towards that state of moksha, of liberation. This is the only solution.
Sonjire, Jitsudomare, Takorosukangi, Tamongarosu, the Jibare, Dotos, Dende Yungare, that I Yuachita, Shinjilata, so I teach it so much.
So the Buddha, Venerable Tara, all these beings started out as ordinary, just like us, but through their cultivation, they were able to reach the state of liberation and then enlightenment. Understanding this, I make requests to them single-pointedly for their blessings. So Dave, I just want to experiment with one setting for the chanting, but if you can't hear anything, just wave, and then I guess maybe I'll just read the chanting in English today, worst comes to worst. But just give me a moment and let's see if I can do something. Mare konso nganso shetang bekabula dang tungya di konso kotu gimendu sa. So I'm just going to chant the first line and tell me if you can hear me. It's good? Okay, all right. I'll switch it back as soon as we're through the prayers. su demba deva sheba jiten gemba kebuduwe kalo gyorwa lana meba ladami namgi temba sangye chomdende bejawa shakya tubala chazelo chede gyabzu jiho Dönba chondende dejin sheba drachomba yandaba zobe sangye reba dan shatsu denba dewa sheba jiden chemba shebu dewe kalo jorwa lana meba ladam minamgi denba sangye chondende pejawa shakya tubala chazelo chede gyausu chi o denba chondende dejin sheba drachomba yanda ba zobe sangye reba dan shatsu denba dewa sheba jiden chemba shebu dewe kalo jorwa lana meba ladam minamgi denba sangye chomdende pejawa shakya tubala chazelo chede gyausu chi ho Saji begi jeje medo chan jila linji nide genpa di sangye jindo mide buwa gi jogu nanda jila chepa sho idam guru ratna mendala kam niryatayami. Refuge and bodhicitta. Chedon sogi chunam la jangchu badu dani gyausu chi dagi chunyen gibe sunam gi jola penjir sangye joba sho Chedon sogi chunam la jangchu badu dani gyausu chi dagi chunyen gibe sunam gi jola penjir sangye joba sho Chedon sogi chunam la jangchu bardu dani gyabzu chi dagi chenyen jibe sunam gi jola penche sangye jobar sho. 다다리.
뭐야 다 단기 간주 가제 뜻 거의시에서는 다 실로 깨자 조 말에 조 단기 라바 노지 어다 린디가 다고 예매소는 또는 예매고 고도도 지레디요 아레스.
So we just spent, so that meditation was is one of the tougher ones, a bit of a reflection, right, on the faults of samsara. And specifically, Dene Lupoti Kandis?
신을 다 예가 거의 시에가 밭 투바지레디요 아레스 도도라고 지수.
And so there, it's like samsara is kind of a collection of difficulties. And one set of these is related to the body.
다 고아세한테 실로요 말에 놀로요 아레 가루스다 된다 된다.
And so, sorry, that was the initial point. And so we have to understand too that samsara is not an external place, right? Samsara is a state within ourselves.
다 거의시에도 답이 배에서 건비가 거의시에서 대한테 또 소소다 레도 녀목을 저자지 리티 녀메소는 또 야레스.
So when we talk about the disadvantages of samsara and the benefits of liberation, right? Dene korwagi kunkandes?
상가로서 레도 녀목을 저자지 리티.
Yes, right. So then the samsaric difficulties arise in part due to this body, which comes about because of karma and affliction.
어레 마토단 실로가 내서 대지 고아다 거의 고사가 다 내다고 지래 마토 고왕이네 말에.
Those external things, right? Difficult places and environments, those are not samsara in the true sense, right? Those are abodes within samsara.
다 던지게 거의 리치를 다 고되게 되라 고아바 서링하로서 단다 고아바세기 말에.
And so those who possess samsaric bodies like ourselves, we are known as, in Tibetan it's korwapa, which kind of rolls off the tongue nicely, I would say samsarians. We are known as samsarians, samsaric beings.
다 로존도 뭐 요아라와스 아니 둥아 고나 타바토발라 깔레카지 메스
And when one studies the teachings, it explains that if we are able to meditate on suffering, then achieving moksha or liberation is not so difficult.
다 데도 지바레 코이시에 고나 타바토발라 다 깔레카지 메케 다 이니멘트 가윙고니 다 보게 레카지 아지 요아레
Similarly, if one is able to meditate properly upon the faults of samsara, then it is said that one is able to achieve liberation with ease. So although these are difficult topics, understanding the context, we want to engage with joy.
쉽게나 샨로 곰비카르 샨디기 진지파 고그도 와스 지파사 나로스 강에 제지기 케차로 마레스 지파세 맨 나로스 샤드 자게요 마레스
So sometimes, right, it's disconcerting when we say that one of the causes of refuge is fear, right? But we need to understand that that's not somebody doing fear to make you feel bad or uncomfortable. It's because without some measure of that fear, you will never seek a refuge.
오다르기도 와서 오다 데도티나 원다버레스 나로스 코이시에데 야포치 니마사나 오늘 타반도야라 달레 같은 고주 토요 마레스
Similarly, if we can't recognize the faults of samsara generally, we'll never be able to give forth a spirit that seeks moksha or liberation.
그래서 오다 던디지 다 타위페 가세 터터 보게 토토앙이네 또 매이스 깔레 카워리테네 다 대화지라 소소 대시 최소를 빼자니 다 손으로 마레스
And, of course, these are difficult topics, but then they also have that, positive aspect, which is based upon comprehending those, we can then comprehend the benefits, right? The positive aspects of liberation.
다 쉐와도 안더니 쉐와지 워자바이나 롱토니 로시는 다 가링이네 제도 워치레스 다 안더니 손으로 마레스
And so think like this is part of the program, if you will, but coming to the end of this, what happens is we are able to go from lifetime to lifetime happily without fear. So what a wonderful outcome is that.
다 타바세나 레도 녀모 다쫄 녀모 들어와 레도 녀모니 될 롱토야 되레
So let's define moksha or liberation. It is a state of emancipation from karma and affliction. And out of those two, karma and affliction is the main one.
코와세는 대니고 가세 대바 이는 코로 비다 보지 마이사 기고 년에지로야 만드세요.
As long as we remain within samsara, we remain under the influence of karma and affliction. And because we remain under that influence, there will be no possibility of finding a stable or meaningful happiness.
뭐다 던지지래. 그래서 뭐다 던지지에서 다 로로소서 가세 터터 거의시에 타위페 다 고주야가 고자비가 같이 보이사레스.
So then, as much as possible, right, as part of your preliminary meditations, this is one of the important ones to cultivate, that understanding of the faults of samsara and the benefits of liberation.
다 리코이 리레테네 이나요 대도 메달 메이세텐 데데 요아이자 농돌 요아이자 다 텐데코 소만다 워치네 텐도 야포치도 토요아레.
So we talked about this samsaric body as being something difficult that keeps us rooted here in difficulties, but because together with this samsaric body we have this human mind, then we can use this kind of situation to achieve a state beyond samsara, beyond difficulty.
다 대용 주코도 주메 콜이나 아니 다 대반 무지가 뚱바니 녜서도 또야 되지 고가도 요아마네. 내 콜이요 할래야지.
Even in the highest realms of samsara, right, the deva realms of the form and formless, they don't have a situation where they can bring forth the wisdom realizing emptiness, but we as human beings do. But we as human beings do. So therefore, if we understand this, right, that's the other side of it, right? That within the desire realm as a human being, we possess many advantages. So okay, so Geshe says we will get to the text, but we'll just do a very short motivation, very short motivation. Bring the four elements into balance, the body and mind at ease. Myself and others, all sentient beings, every single one possess within us the potential for liberation, the potential for bodhicitta and Buddha nature, the potential for enlightenment. Understanding this, all of them are precious and close to me. Our task is understanding a Buddha can help beings ripen those potentials, to work towards Buddhahood, to be the one who guides sentient beings to activating those potentials for freedom. If I can achieve the same state that the Buddha achieved, that Venerable Tara achieved, that state of Buddhahood, then I would be able to benefit sentient beings exactly as I wish. Therefore, may I achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. In order to achieve this, I need stable study and stable practice. As much as possible, I will bring forth effort in stability. So now, in order to achieve that, we turn to the stages of meditation, which explains actually how we need to meditate to achieve that goal. So just in the earlier parts, just in a capsule, what it was explaining is that without both relative and ultimate bodhicitta, we will not be able to reach that goal. But in order to realize those, we definitely need śamatha, calm abiding, and vipaśyanā, special insight. So here are the instructions on śamatha and vipaśyanā.
다 니네를 다 라도건 거들레스.
So last time we spoke mostly about calm abiding, and there remain some things connected to that we'll go over. But now the text turns to its discussion of special insight. De la kebu dampa ji tabula tempar.
다 생이어서 또 뭐래 나도 뭐래.
He's saying, am I first or you? Well, gosh, I'm just letting you know where we left off. I marked where we left off.
야, 단디서 조조하고서
Yeah, true.
와, 다 가져시네 다시도 지바고는 그지라. 단디는 라도가 다 가르래. 라도가 다지 쪼르와.
So Geshe is just explaining how the text works. So we kind of went over the prerequisites and an overview of calm abiding. And as we move forward, we'll actually come to a more detailed explanation. But now what it's turning to is that same sort of overview about vipaśyanā, special insight. In particular, the factors we need to develop special insight.
라도가 공시나 시부동발라 땜바도 모두 티바 용서 짜와도 처지 셈바고.
So we are halfway down page 20. What are the prerequisites of special insight? They are relying on holy persons, seriously seeking extensive instruction, and proper contemplation.
어다대 아무 것이 기면도 와서 어다 내서 시키게다 보게 어다야 뭐지 그거 아이서 시부동발라 땜바도 모두 티바 용서 짜와 용원이 용어등 알아서 티바서 아니라 또 침보서 그 알아서.
So holy persons, right, in this context, we're really talking about people who possess the knowledge of how to do this, the knowledge that we need. So having identified the person that possesses that knowledge, draw close to him or her and continuously listen to instruction.
어다대래 어느 처지 셈바고 대용다가 다시 시바 존지 배도요 말이 용용 처지 솜바세레 처지 셈바 용용
양양
고고요 알아서.
Right. And so seeking that extensive instruction, that's not enough, right? But in terms of proper contemplation, we need to think again and again, right, about what we heard.
어다 노진 지대게 다 로존다고 지는 코 시자소는 다 들어가로 코 리디어 콜레가소는 도야레 마도. 다가 말아왔어. 다 난주대 시바 존지게 자 말했어. 너는 고원을세 보긴 좀 어때도 가지고 그래서.
So to be very clear, right, cultivating the dharma is different to secular education, right? In secular education, the goal is knowledge itself, right? So once we have the knowledge, once we have that basic understanding, we can move on. With Dharma, it's not like that, right? The knowledge, the understanding is the first step, and we need to cultivate a deep experience of that through contemplation, thinking about it again and again.
저세 가르레스 니빠 세 코로 니빠 첨보 또 첨보지 조그요 알아 생각소.
So why is this the case? Because we need to take that knowledge and use it to activate the power, the potential of our mind, to create a powerful mind.
다 저세 가르레스 나로서 치네와 시키 세대
Why do we need to activate the power of that positive potential? Because part of our problem is the habituation to the mistaken minds, the afflicted minds, which continuously block our goals. So because those afflictive minds, due to habituation, have become so powerful, we need to activate in a powerful way their antidote. Otherwise, we will never be able to overcome them. So for that reason, we need to excellently bring forth training in hearing, contemplation, and meditation, and engage in those practices continuously. This is very important. Yeah. So, what type of holy person should you rely upon? One who has heard many teachings, who expresses, and just for those just for those equity-minded folks out there, himself is not what's there in the Tibetan. The Tibetan is very gender ambiguous. So I will say who expresses themselves clearly, who is endowed with compassion and able to withstand hardship. Yeah. So Geshe said that, it's not so easy, to find that right kind of holy person because they need to have a lot of qualities, actually. So you see the two key points here, right? That they themselves have heard a lot of teachings, but they can express that knowledge clearly. That's really important as well. And they have compassion, right, for the listeners, right? And they can withstand hardships or difficulties with patience. Sorry, we're just having a moment. So the definition in the commentary of withstand hardship here is no matter how many times somebody asks them to repeat something again, they always do that with great patience. So that is what is meant by withstand hardship. No, I said nothing for the record. So this really comes all from a mind of benefit, right? From a mind wishing to benefit. Yeah, so the one who is speaking, right, they need to have those clear words, but they also need to be a person who is happy to teach, and not only happy to teach, but who is able to express themselves clearly. What is meant by seriously seeking extensive instruction? This is to listen seriously with respect to the definitive and interpretable meaning of the 12 branches of the Buddha's teachings. And then there's a quote from the Unraveling the True Intention Arya Sutra. So Geshe is just explaining that the 12 branches of the Buddha's teachings. So it's actually Sung Rap. So if you wanted to translate this literally, you would say the 12 branches of excellent speech, right? This is like an abbreviated way of enumerating the Buddha's teachings, because Geshe is saying, we also have that number of 84,000 teachings. And 84,000 is just kind of a way of expressing the vastness, because if you were to actually count, it would likely be more than that. So why did the holy beings come up with this number of 84,000? It's because sentient beings are said to possess 84,000 different types of afflictions, and within the Buddha's teachings are antidotes to every single one of those. So there's one way to enumerate the teachings by considering each of them, or several of them as antidotes to specific afflictions, of which there are 84,000. Yeah. So you condense those 84,000 down to those 12 categories of excellent speech, here given as the 12 branches of the Buddha's teaching. And so the name of those is going to come as we go in the text, don't worry. Yeah. If you want to do an even sort of more abbreviated enumeration, we can put them into the Tripitaka, right? The 3 baskets of teaching. Yeah. And so that makes it really easy, right? Yeah. So those are the Sutra basket, the Discipline basket, and the Abhidharma basket. And so those 3 baskets are kind of expressions of, within those teachings, which of the 3 higher trainings is the main focus. And so that is how they are divided and enumerated. Sujun gilapa, samden gilapa, dang shira gilapa. Tingin gilapa, dang shira gilapa. So anyone who wishes to achieve liberation or enlightenment needs to cultivate those 3 higher trainings, and those 3 higher trainings are higher trainings in ethics, higher training in concentration, and higher training in wisdom. If one is seeking merely liberation, right, then the cultivation of ethics, concentration, and wisdom by themselves will be enough to achieve that. But if one is aiming towards Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, complete and perfect Buddhahood, then one needs to cultivate things in addition to this. So keep this in mind, right? So when you think, how can one enumerate the Buddha's teachings? And keep in mind, there's an extensive way, the 84,000, middling way, these 12 categories, and abbreviated way, the 3 baskets. So Geshe is saying the kung, so the scriptural citation here is from a sutra called Unraveling the True Intention, Arya Sutra, and this and this is from the 3rd or the final turning of the wheel of Dharma. And when you divide the last turning of the wheel according to philosophical schools, it is said that within the last turning of the wheel, it is the mind-only or Chittamantran view that kind of flavors those scriptures. Not listening to superior beings' teachings as you wish is an obstacle to special insight. The same sutra says special insight arises from its cause, correct view, which in turn arises from listening and contemplation. So when we say special insight here, we should be clear what type of special insight we're talking about in the main. In the main, we're speaking about the special insight, which is wisdom realizing emptiness. Oh, geez. So the questions of Narayana Arya Sutra says, through the experience of listening to teachings, you gain wisdom, and with wisdom, disturbing emotions are thoroughly pacified. So when we So Geshe is just explaining that here they're laying out what kind of correct hearing is, right? So then we're talking about hearing. Next, there's going to be a discussion of contemplation. And then it is only through those, right, that meditation and indeed proper wisdom can arise. So it's in steps. So it is said that one who has not trained in hearing contemplation but tries to meditate is like one who does not possess arms trying to climb a mountain, right? It's not going to be possible. Yeah. So then, you know, we have to be careful, right, that we develop our faculties to ascend the mountain. Otherwise, we could trip and fall. So, page 21, what is meant by proper contemplation? It is properly establishing the definitive and interpretable sutras. When bodhisattvas are free of doubt, they can meditate single-pointedly. Otherwise, if doubt and indecision beset them, they will be like a man at the crossroads, uncertain of which path to follow. So when we speak about a sutra, let us be clear. A sutra is something that has been spoken by the Buddha. That's how we define that. Yeah. Panjin. When we speak about, so sutra, right? If you wanted to say this in English, I would say like a discourse. So that's a discourse that is attributed to a Buddha. The next category is Shastra. Shastra is commentaries. So those are spoken by holy beings, some bodhisattvas who are not the Buddha, but they are explanations of the Buddha's teachings. These are known as shastras, and they can be composed by, for example, the 17 Nālandā scholars. And so the bodhisattvas actually, on the basis of the sutras and the explanations within the shastras, so on the basis of the Buddha's teachings and their commentaries, this is how they gave rise to unmistaken meditation. Yeah, so now the next line. When bodhisattvas are free of doubt, they can meditate single-pointedly. Yeah. So otherwise, if doubt and indecision beset them, they will be like a man at the crossroads, uncertain of which path to follow. Yeah, so if you have doubt, right, you're going to be kind of like really uncertain, and it's going to be hard to choose a direction or path.
So the
next one. Yogis, and I mentioned this is gender neutral, so we could also say or yoginis. Yogis or yoginis should at all times avoid fish, meat, and so forth. Should eat with moderation and avoid foods that are not conducive to health.
So Geshe
said, those practitioners, right? Many good practitioners were able to go in this good direction by following those restrictions of avoiding fish, poultry, meat, and so forth.
Oh,
So Geshe would say the best, right, is not to take any animal flesh at all. However, if for whatever reason one continues to eat meat, it is considered a graver misdeed if you're eating meat that takes many sentient beings. So if you are eating many tiny kinds of fish or many shrimp or something, because on the basis of each sentient being, there is a negativity accumulated, it's best not to eat meat like that.
So
Geshe said, he's heard that there are some philosophies that are insisting that fish are not animals, right? That they're not sentient beings, and therefore it's okay to eat them. But in his opinion, this is a mistaken view. Listen. Thus, bodhisattvas who have assembled all the prerequisites for calm abiding meditation and special insight should enter into meditation. When meditating, the yogi should first complete all the preparatory practices. That office try it here. Yeah. So the preparatory practices that the yogi has to cultivate, here we can understand that these are the 6 preparatory practices, which we already spoke about. So he should go to the toilet and in a pleasant location Free of disturbing noise, he should think, I will deliver all sentient beings to the state of enlightenment. Then he should manifest great compassion, the thought wishing to liberate all the sentient beings.
오다 고세한테 그 가고 심보도 달려 다 그게 가르쳐가라 어담담담 메사 달래래질 고자가라 왔어.
So, the idea is that, after doing your daily activities, you want to seek out a place which is not too noisy to kind of bring forth that motivation.
어단데도 다 그런데더니 다 여보 지시 다기도 쇼주세도 다 니지가 자와지고 쇼주세.
And so you see here the motivation that they're bringing forth, that good motivation of great compassion. And so ideally that great compassion followed by bodhicitta. The next step, and pay homage to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the 10 directions by touching the 5 limbs of his body to the ground. So they mention these 5 limbs because you have to have your 2 knees, your 2 arms, and your forehead touching the ground. Otherwise, it's not considered a fully qualified prostration. He should place the image of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, such as a painting, in front of him or in some other place. He should make as many offerings and praises as he can. He should confess his misdeeds and rejoice in the merit of all other beings. So in order, because the accumulation of merit and the purification of negativities and obscurations is so important, we need an effective method for this. So this is here, aspects of the 7 branch or 7 limb practice are being explained. So we have this wish, right, to achieve these realizations of minds like love and compassion. But sometimes it feels like no matter sort of how hard we press, we are not able to bring forth those realizations. What is the reason for this? The reason for this is the negativities and obscurations within our mind stream. Yeah. Konso dang nyamdu kala sana. Konso gi kala nyamdu sana da wa. Yeah. Ale di drib da vola. Yeah. So Geshe is speaking about like very sort of highly accomplished and sensitive meditators, right? Very highly accomplished and sensitive meditators. If they share food with a highly sinful person, their meditations after that encounter are going to be disturbed because the highly sinful person, there's something called jip. Jib, I don't know how to translate it exactly. It's like a little bit of a negative energy. So there's a residual negative energy on the food from having shared with that person. So negative karma and its subtle manifestations, these can cause obstacles to the meditator. So to purify those, one of the best ways is the 7 limbs or branches, aspects of which are being explained here. So next is rejoicing, and rejoicing is praised by Lama Tsongkhapa as being the easiest, most convenient method to gather great virtue.
This one, what I'm going to you could have a table, you could have Azuma Javachi, Jesus, you wrote the Guadava in Coca Lem, Yavato, Candiabo.
So it's beautiful, actually, because this practice of rejoicing requires little effort and not even necessarily, so much focus. It is something that we can do, for example, after a long day when we lie down to sleep. We can contemplate and rejoice in the virtues of ourselves and others. It's always accessible to us.
어떤 간주 주모버시 사람 다 뭐지 고사로 와서 뭐지가 자보지가 손지 코드 집발 칼라 뭐버피 뭐나 패턴 패냐 그 메케가 아마지가 될 지스 여러고 개와 뒤도 제가 다 로지 뭐요 와서
So there's many stories, right, from the time of when the Buddha was in this world, and one of them, of course, is that famous story of the king who invited the Buddha for a big dana, a big meal offering, and then the king who sponsored said, dedicate the merits to whoever accumulated the most merit. He dedicated the merits to a beggar woman who lived outside the palace because of the purity of her rejoicing when she was seeing the offering.
다때 간리야 첨보지 얘나 존에 그게 찌고 그냥 깔레 찌고지요 말세 손도 개와 감각이 또 제가 좋아서.
That's an incredible thing, right? Because she didn't possess any means to make the offerings, right? As a poor person, she was, like physically not strong, but just through the power and sincerity of the mind of rejoicing in those merits, the merit that she accumulated was more powerful than the merit of the benefactor himself.
So why was
this the case? Of course, the king accumulated vast merit, right, from making those beautiful preparations and inviting the Sangha. But because of his high position, some of those preparations were mixed with pride. Therefore, the woman outside the palace who rejoiced in the offering, her merit was greater. So for more explanation of this, you can turn to Shantideva's Bodhisattva Charyavatara, the section on rejoicing, where it explains very extensively the benefits of the rejoicing mind. The benefits are so extensive that it might be hard to believe that such a simple practice is so powerful. So now we come to the meditation posture. So we're towards the bottom of 21. Then he should sit in the full lotus posture of Vairochana, or the half lotus posture, on a comfortable cushion. So we shall leave the discussion here, right at the bottom of page 21, and we are now going to turn to the 21 praises of Tara. The 21 praises of Tara. Do a couple of those. Yeah, decent. So everybody, so we are using the FPMT file, which has, like, in italics, you'll see a chantable version, but the translation I'll be referring to is the longer English translation by, our founder, Kyabje Lama Zopa Rinpoche. So I believe we are at the top of page 8. So far we have covered like 4 out of the 21 taras. Yeah, chakso tutara hungi. So the next Tara, homage to you, Tara, who with the letters Tut Tara and Hum fill the realms of desire, direction, and space, whose feet trample on the 7 worlds, and who are able to draw forth all beings to you. So the name of this Tara is Tara, proclaiming the excellent sound Hum. If we shorten her name, it's one who proclaims Hum. So interestingly, the commentaries assign her different colors. Some assign her a red color, others assign her a yellowish color. So Geshe said, you know, he doesn't necessarily think it matters. You can visualize her as like that sort of red or as more of a yellowish color, whichever helps you focus your mind. And then the most important thing is to have full confidence that she is actually there as you make the praise. So the power of this tara is through the syllables she utters. She utters tutara and hum, and it is said that through uttering hum, for example, all of the obstacles, all of the obstacles of the three realms, desire, form, and formless, are completely cleared away. Zukam. So okay, so I see. So if you look in the Lama Zopa Rinpoche's translation, you'll see desire, direction, and space. That's actually what refers to the three realms. So the desire realm is the desire realm. Direction is the form realm, and space is the formless realm. That's the meaning of those. So Namka actually means sky, but it's said as space because the formless realm, right, there is no form. So it's resembling an empty space. So that's why that word is used. Yeah. So a lack of form. You understand space means lack of form. So then you're like, oh yeah, the formless realm. That's what that means. And then there's a whole discussion we could get into. Is it completely formless? Is it extremely subtle form? But we'll leave that for another day. So where does that argument come from? Well, some people say, but there's minds in those formless realms. And if there's mind, there has to be wind, because we've said that mind and wind cannot exist separately. And therefore, wind has an extremely subtle form. So mind being able to pervade, you know, all times and different objects, it happens because of the mount of the mind, which is the wind, the prana upon which it travels. So then the next one, whose feet trample the seven worlds. So you see the seven worlds are mentioned. Kandis? Ngensung sum dang? Yep. 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 Dinga. Yes. So what are those seven worlds? What's this counting? So the three lower realms, that's three, right? Hell, pretas, animals. Humans and gods of the desire realm, that's five. Then the form and formless. Then the form and formless realms, that's seven. Yeah. So all of the difficulties of those seven worlds, with the power of her hum, she is able to overcome. Gupasana kangpa ola. Tsukupa. Ale. Yeah. Ale los. Gekden so. And able to draw all beings to you, this means that she can draw all of the sort of hindering forces and unseen beings that cause problems to her in order to pacify them.
So
we can see from this verse of a Tara related to the Tara proclaiming the excellent sound hum, we see the power of the utterance of these syllables tutara and hum as well.
Let's
so. So we're going to the next one. Ale. So I'll just read the next one, but we're not going to give the commentary. Chaksa Hamish Tara, venerated by Indra, Agni, Brahma, Vayu, and Ishwara, and praised by the assembly of spirits, raised corpses, Gandharvas, and all yakshas. So that is where we will pick up next time.
Uh-huh.
So you see there that Ishvara is mentioned in Tibetan. He's Lawangchuk. So that's where we will pick up the discussion next time. So thank you very much. With a mind lifted up in joy, let us dedicate the merits. So I'll just switch the sound super quick. Yeah, so of course, as I always say, if you need to get on with your day, please feel free after the dedication. If you want to stay for Q&A, we welcome you with open hearts. Jangjo semjo rinpoche maje panam jejo richi chewa nyamba meba yang gone gondu pewa risho tongni tawa rinpoche maje panam jejo richi chewa nyamba meba yang gone gondu pewa Sho Jambe Bao Jigdar Kyamba Tang Kundu Zambo Deyan Dejinde Deda Kungi Jesu Dalo Jir Gewa Dida Tamje Radungo Duzun Shebe Gyawa Tamje Gi Ngowa Gangla Chodu Ngabade Dagi Gewe Tsawa Dikun Kyang Zambo Joji Rabdu Ngowa Gi Gangri Rawe Kowe Jingande Pendan Dewa Malu Jongwe Ne Chenre Ziwan Tenzin Jatsoye Shabi Side Bardu Tenjoji. So through our engagement with a wholesome merit, as well as through the blessings of all of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, then all of the samsaric inhabitants of all of the various realms of samsara, may their evil thoughts be completely cleared away, and may they give rise to only thoughts of loving kindness.
Yuanji Nevala Tene Takange Mumbo, Chinguyare, Magopala, Tayung Siba, Isata Teji Kangapa, Shani Kangapa, Deji, Namasha, Jalando.
Yeah. And so the four elements, any imbalance that could cause any environmental degradation or disasters that lead to suffering of sentient beings, may these be cleared away. May the elements be restored in their balance. And in this way, may the sun of happiness and stability shine on all beings without discrimination. So thanks so much, everybody. For those of you who would like to stick around for questions, if anybody has a question, we're more than happy to take it. If you have a question, you can ask one.
None on social media today.
Social media is quiet too, eh, Dave? Okay.
Yep.
So does anybody in the Zoom assembly have a question? Just want to make sure we didn't miss anyone.
I'll risk one.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Good morning, Geshe. Good morning, Kedra.
Morning.
we often have to eat with others and find this very unavoidable. Even, for instance, eating at food courts, for instance, when we're out and about. So how can we purify the drip, the stains of eating with others, but maybe take it a little bit further? How can we contribute to the purification of the drip of others?
Yes. Nganso perna nganso samsam digpe midang nyamdu sana dribla tene samsam barche yongire duas roa ine nganso tengdugi tutsela nganso samsam mi mambo dang nyamdu sagogire dua perna nganso food court la drona dene mi mambo dang nyamdu kalasagire duas roa dene disona dene nganso di jib dinso kandes me pasogres yamena nganso sachi dinso yope kaplola mi mambo gi jib kandes yongtugire sa
Me ta tedo me karsa karta ha levi ta ko digestani chache marwas konta. Ruru soso ta karsa kar. Yakachi ki warwa.
Yeah.
Teje ha levi digest chache mo tani mares sorry. Digest chache mo ser seji mowal ne washi kedo.
Yeah.
Ota tiso tani mowal mogedo matu to triso kindiwas.
Ale mi mangchewa di dapoyo mares.
yo.
Ale. So Geshe said that he has to give a caveat here. I believe it was Steve who asked the question. So
Yes.
Is it Steve?
Yes,
I thought so.
it was me.
Yeah. I always like to greet people by name. That's the only reason I'm asking. So he said the first thing he has to clarify is these jib from eating with someone, they're normally not very minute or of much concern. So in the case of like if you're in a food court, maybe not such a big deal. But the thing is, if you have the occasion to eat with someone who you know has killed many beings, who you know is propounding views that are harming many beings, who is of a very unwholesome nature, then the jib can be more of a concern.
Ta ngazo food court kala sa vikal ta yo ta shasa ke to ta trinda manda tu yo to yo was. Ta ina yo soso teji kanga pa. Tani thongala tene shomba to niji ta she ne melo tani ja to na wo ko jese yo hares.
But, like if we're in a food court, for example, you're going to be seeing a lot of people who are eating meat, right? Dene nganso semchen kola ninja kegores shasagen denso ninja kegores.
Ta kage gol che so ta seje te kola niji lil tese lilaga was.
So like one way to purify that and to put a positive imprint would be to meditate upon the animals with love and compassion, but also to extend that love and compassion to those who are eating.
Ta ngazo senje wasa teje thongu de no so page ta garsek. Shomba do niji da wo choa.
Yeah. And so Geshe said, like with this particular bringing forth of compassion, this is actually an easier place to do it because we've all seen, right, those farm animals, those sentient beings. So we can really have a conception of them as individuals.
But
that's an extending practice, right? But in terms of what's mentioned with the jib here, it's really like that kind of extreme example, right? Which is where you are in a place with someone who has harmed or killed many, many people, and you have to share a meal. Yeah. Yeah, so there's a line in the Lama Chupa, the Guru Puja liturgy, that speaks about being without pretense or guile. Yoa mepa sana kare? So one who makes offerings without guile, one way of understanding this is that the person who is making the offerings themselves were not procured through harming, through dishonesty, or through violence. I believe it's in the third section of the Lama Chupa. I may be wrong. Yeah. So we talk about faulty offerings, which comes from that discussion. And we also speak of offerings which are faulty or which are done with guile from the point of view of the motivation. And that would be a motivation that is connected to the 8 worldly concerns, the 8 worldly dharmas.
senjil nevashin rajazi chalate ya pian dan zivochi ramato magtas zivona vochi ramato
Yeah. So it's like someone, like if you steal money from somebody and then make a beautiful offering at the temple, which was funded by the money that you stole, that looks like something like very devout in front of others, but with your guile, you know, you've deceived them because the thing behind it is something totally negative.
Yeah.
So there's a saying in Tibetan that says, don't kill a fish to feed a dog, right? So don't make an offering based upon something that's negative, right? Yeah, don't kill a fish to eat a dog. That's the saying. Yeah, it maybe comes from a good place. You want to benefit that dog, right? But if you're killing the fish, that's harming to do benefit, right? That doesn't make sense. Yeah, so it's all connected. You need jib, jib mepasoegi top shabte ngaktang tinso dapo yere duas. Yeah, karieres. Yeah, kodi kola dopo yere ngachana. So Geshe said that because I was thinking that Steve was also asking about the method to purify these jip, right? And he said, you know, very powerful mantras can often be enough, right? So the mantra of Buddha Shakyamuni, the mantra of Tara, and so forth. These are very effective means of clearing that pollution. Or if you feel it's in kind of a wrathful means is required, then your personal yidam, for example, most secret Hayagriva or something like this can be very effective. But Geshe says that he always mentions the mantra of Buddha Shakyamuni first because we are all connected to Buddha Shakyamuni as practitioners of the Dharma that he brought into the world. So we're all connected to him. And there's other ritual means as well. There's many other ritual means as well. Thanks for the question, Steve. Does anyone else have a question?
Thank you, Geshe. Thank you, Kedar.
Thanks so much.
So
Geshe said, are we cool to stop the questions? And he does a story. Oh, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, we have now from Ladan, what to recite when we take the food that we offered to the Buddha. Thank you.
Nganso the chupa puldu roa kunchuk sumla chupa puldu roa denit tsik kandis peshatango gereduas tumpalama sanje rinpoche. Yeah. So it's an offering to the teacher, the Buddha, to the pure teaching, the Dharma, and to the community, the Sangha. So in Tibetan, the prayer goes Tumpalama sanje rinpoche. It starts like that. Are people familiar with that? If anyone's familiar, maybe you can put a link for that person. Tumpalamis, Tumpalamis sanje rinpoche roa. Yeah. So to the unparalleled teacher, Lame is like unparalleled. To the unparalleled teacher, the Buddha, I make the offering, the one that starts like that. Yeah. So that's the easiest one. But there's many you can do. Yapse sumla chikyoreroa. Yeah, so there's many different ones you can do, but that's the most common one, the one that starts with Tumpa Lame Sanje Rinpoche. Yeah. Chobalame Damshe Rinpoche. So then the next line is an offering to the unmistaken Dharma. Yeah. Dembalame Gendun Rinpoche. So then the third one is to the best amongst followers, the Sangha. Kunchuk Sumla Choba. Kunchuk Sumla. Yeah, and then finally offering to the 3 jewels together. Yeah. Chabne Kunchu Sumla Chobabul. So I offer to the three objects of refuge, the three jewels, this food. Something like that.
tani nganzo ta ya kepa kashi sungu yare nganzo chewa pi nyela omo ke tamasan de tona hallewe che chemo yosare.
So also, according to the tantric teachings, a very simple way to offer the food, which many commentators, highly realized beings have said, is to recite Om Ahum, the purifying, transforming, increasing mantra 3 times when you make the offering. And this is powerful related to Steve's questions because the Om Ahum, the hum itself, is a great way to clear away drib, or that kind of contamination that we talked about, as well as make the offering. When you say ah, you can imagine that the food is becoming in the nature of nectar. There's a lot of typing happening.
Sorry.
It's all good. Sorry. It's my fault. ADD makes me notice that stuff. I don't think anyone else notices, probably. Yeah. So the transforms it into the form of nectar.
Om sa tiga hakosaro ani te the jitsasun te chene gazel nungshan dueme ba.
Omdi. Omdi. Om is inexhaustibility. So you can imagine that the offering becomes inexhaustible. Right. So Geshe-la's advice is to do Om Ahum 3 times and then do Tumpa Lame Sanjay Rinpoche. Then do that prayer to the 3 jewels. And Geshe said there's actually multiple prayers for offering food that we could recite to different objects of refuge, and maybe if folks are interested, one day he could talk about some of those. So anyway, so that's connected with, I think, the question we had on Facebook about how to offer the food, as well as about the contamination from Steve. Any other questions on socials, Dave? Doesn't look like it. Okay. No, Yomar. So on that note, Geshe said we'll end with a short story and then we'll call it a session. Yeah. If Kedrup doesn't complain. I love stories. I have no idea what he's talking about. As long as I can understand it.
Georgie Nālandā tani tā ngānsu Roma ki te shi jagi wāi tā Rome ki lo ji nyambo chi res.
So this is a story related to Tara, because we've been doing some of the explanations of the 21 Taras.
Ane Georgie Nālandā ki ki. Ane kola ropa cheki tā geyu sen kashi yo res tisu geki duas.
Deju Georgie gekure. So at this time, Georgie, so Lord Atisha was the discipline master at Nālandā monastery.
And at
that time he had the geku, so the discipline master has those geyok, which are like the disciplinary assistants.
Yeah.
My chipa. Oh, loso. So Lord Atisha was sending out his assistants to inspect the monks' rooms. And there was a monk, kind of famous, by the name of Maitripa. And in his room, they found several bottles of alcohol.
So,
first of all, he was scolded, and then they said, actually, according to the rules of the monastery, one who is found with alcohol is not allowed to stay, so they expelled him, basically. So, of course, Maitripa had to leave, and to sort of get away from the vicinity of Nālandā, he took like a boat or a raft along the Ganges River. So he, before being expelled, had tried to explain that for one such as myself, drinking alcohol is not a fault. But they said we have to stick to the rules of the monastery, and they expelled him anyway. And his reason was, I'm a high practitioner, right? So the sort of hidden meaning of that is, I'm a high practitioner, therefore I don't have to follow the rules. So the discipline master said, even if you are a higher level practitioner, the rules of the monastery stand, even if. So he left, and as we said, he took this boat or this raft along the Ganges River to leave. Yeah. So at the time when he was about to get on that boat or that raft, Tara herself appeared to Lord Atisha and said that, actually, in this case, it is genuine. He does possess realizations, and it would be a greater disadvantage than benefit to expel him. Yeah. So Atisha and his assistant, they felt terrible, so they ran quickly to the bank of the river, and they put their bodies in front of the raft and said, sorry, we shouldn't have kicked you out. You don't have to leave. However, Maitripa said, my return could be unsettling. Therefore, it's better that I leave, at least for now. And Atisha said, okay, if you think so, if you must go, you must, but please, before you part, give us a verse of Dharma. At that time, Maitripa said, now is not the time, perhaps on another occasion. So he did not speak the Dharma before leaving. So the point is, right, like sometimes as human beings, we can only do the best we can. But if our vision is limited to prevent a problem, sometimes Tara herself will appear to intervene. So if you go to Dzongkar Chöde Monastery in southern India, they have several images of Tara, and she is in different postures. Some of them she is standing up, others it looks very lifelike, like very human expressions. So these are all said to be statues which have like gotten up or spoken to intervene, to help very directly. So that is the story that Geshe wanted to share. So perhaps we will end it here. And I just want to say we will be here. We'll have teachings next Sunday. So that is Ganden Ngamche, the anniversary of Lama Tsongkhapa. And so Geshe will give the oral transmission of Kedrupje's praise to Lama Tsongkhapa at the beginning of class. And then we'll do as usual. Take care, everybody. Oh, yeah. Nice to see everyone. Take care. Stay happy.
Thanks, Dave.